We're fortunate to have two, possibly three industry speakers with us today who will be discussing the upcoming PTF BPI conference. It's going to be held November 1st through 3rd at the King and the Prince Resort on beautiful St. Simons Island, Georgia. We're supposed to be hosted by Dr. Tim Young from the Center for Renewable Carbon at the University of Tennessee, but we'll also be joined by Terry Lyles from Huber Engineered Woods and Bob Breyer, Senior Technology Manager at Georgia Pacific, who will also be presenting at the conference. So Terry, let's get started. You'll know me. One of the first things I said when I came along with FES was, what is PTF BPI? It's a mouthful, but what is it and who should come?
Well, the conference is really dedicated to the exchange of information and ideas about research on process technologies, quality control, and process improvement. It's really a good forum for learning between scientists and industry. You know, a lot of our conferences in the Forest Products Society host have a pretty heavy academic leaning or emphasis to them. This one is more industry focused, although there are some academic people who come and participate, and I think they also are able to share some of their research in terms of some of the basic technology with the people in the manufacturing industry. So we look at things, this conference, for example, will have a lot of things related to raw materials, statistical processing, and also related to even some business development items as well. So there's a wide variety of topics that will be part of this conference, but really that's kind of what it's geared toward. It's kind of bringing together some of the scientific work and information in conjunction with what's going on in the building products, wood products industry.
I'll throw it to you, Bob, as well. You and Terry both come from the private industry side of things. What does the conference offer to folks from your side of the industry?
To me, one of the things is it's both bringing the academic side, where we are hearing some strong academic talks, but also one of the things I look at is there's a lot of practical talks on the statistics and looking how to improve your process. I know Tim is giving a big talk on Gen 4, the Industrial Revolution, Gen 4. Where to look at what the future is going to be. And really it tries to bring academic and industry together. And so to me, it brings in things that I actually need from the industry to hear future trends to a good extent. Terry, what would you think?
Yeah, there's a lot of, and also on top of that, there's some things around process control. As a matter of fact, we've got Matt Holt, who's the director of quality for Roseburg Forest Products, is going to be there to give a presentation. Kurt Koch, who's the vice president of product engineering and quality at Huber, is going to give some talks on what we can expect in terms of building codes in the future and what we can expect there. I know Dr. Brian Vai from Auburn is giving some presentation on soy-based adhesives. So there's just a wide variety of things that really have interest in having impact, you know, in our industry and impact what we do on a day-to-day basis.
So guys, the list of keynoters, and I'm going to share my screen here momentarily, but it's certainly impressive. Kind of speak to both the caliber of the speaker. I would say it's not every day that you can have a gathering of folks with this amount of experience in the industry, but if you would speak to the caliber of speaker, but also some of the topics that they may be hitting and how it's applicable to our industry and our academic side.
Well, you know, we have Royal Martin, who's the chairman and CEO of Royal Martin Company, who's one of the leading companies in the building products industry. And they've done a lot lately in the building some new plants and putting some new technologies in those plants. He's always a captivated speaker at these conferences. And of course, Kurt Koch, who's got a wealth of knowledge and experience in the building products industry. He's been with Huber Engineered Woods for almost 20 years. Before that, he was with Weyerhaeuser, and he's a engineering background, but he's worked a lot in quality control as well as just product engineering and development of products. He was also vice president of innovation at one time, so he's got a wide breadth of experience. And you've got Wendy Owens, who is a founder and CEO of the Hexas Biomass Company, as well as Harold Arnold, who is president of Renewable Fuels. So there'll be a lot of talk about biomass and about using renewable resources from wood products. And also, as I mentioned, we've got Matt Holt, who's the director of quality for Roseburg, and he's going to talk about data science, which would be something that they implemented in some of their processes. And Charles Waddell from Geoplasma Solutions talking about air quality for removing COVID in the workplace, which is obviously a very relevant topic. It should be a lot of interest to people as well. And Charles Gale, who's a strategic business analysis for Smartland in North America. And of course, the most premier of all is Bob Breyer of GP Chemicals, who's been in the wood adhesives area for about 30 years. Bob, you want to say anything about any of these speakers?
One of the things that I really like is that it's bringing in, it's not all one area. It's truly doing what the title talks about, where it's the bio-based. And so we're going to have information on fuels, on bio raw materials, panel products, the industry. And so it's really covering a wide gambit. And that's one thing about this meeting is it tends to be very diverse. And so you should be able to find something you're interested in during all the talks.
Is it too late for anyone that might be interested in presenting or giving a talk at the conference?
I think there's definitely time open for if they have a presentation to try to slide it under the door as fast as possible. But I think there's some open slots, but they're, I think, filling up pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, we still have some slots, I think, on Wednesday morning, if you may want to turn in the abstract. Certainly take a look at it.
And we're also looking at doing possibly some roundtable discussions.
Yeah.
So that basically try to bring people from the industry talking about things. Possible topics right now are what are going to be the structural product needs for the future in 2025 and beyond? And another one is how are we going to get ready for this fourth generation industrial revolution? How we're going to get ready for it, and how is it going to change what we're doing?
Well, it's in beautiful St. Simons, which if you've never been there, St. Simons Island, it's known as the Golden Isle, just off the coast of Brunswick, Georgia. You'll all be happy to know that your leadership, Terry and I believe Dr. Young and Fred Kerpeel made a trip down to the King and the Prince earlier this year to scope things out. So they're dedicated to their work. Terry, tell us, it won't be all work and no play. Tell us a little bit more about St. Simons and the King and the Prince.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful island, and the King and Prince is right on the ocean, so really nice. You can go out and be right there on the ocean. And we have a cocktail hour on Tuesday night, I believe, that will be out. Hopefully be outside, weather permitting, and also on Monday there's a golf tournament planned, a beautiful golf course there that it's a little ways, 20-30 minutes from the hotel, but you can get up there, and it's a really beautiful place. But there's been a lot of opportunity for networking with the cocktail hour and exhibits and the time between the talks and the meals. We have a dinner on Tuesday night as well, so. It'd be an opportunity, and I think you would really enjoy it. It's a nice place. They've got nice amenities there, pool and tennis courts, and so it's really nice facility.
And the city is actually very nice to go to. There's a nice little pier not far away. There's a lighthouse you can go look at. quite a few things. Just it's a good place to wander around and to look at things.
Yeah, and the food is really good there too.
It's a great area. We're also looking, we've got some, I would call them special courses. We'll be doing our intro to wood science course again. Bob, you're scheduled to speak there, and there are definitely some openings for that course. Do you guys want to speak a little bit? That's a different focus this time than some of our past offerings of intro to wood. Do you guys want to speak about that and who it might be appropriate for to consider attending the intro to wood science class?
Well, on that, besides just wood science, one thing we are also going to be talking about, or I'll be talking about, is some of the adhesives that go into it, and how they're formed, and how they work in the process. So it brings into account the wood and also the adhesives. So it's going to be a little bit more information, hopefully.
And Tim, Dr. Young will be conducting another session on design of experiments. Terry, can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, Tim, he's been doing design of experiments classes for years. I mean, I've been through the class. I think Bob's been through the class. I've given lectures in his class as well as Bob, but he's really good at teaching design of experiments and how you can get it down and use it in a practical way in an industrial setting. It's going to be a challenge for him to pack it all in that one session, but he'll hit the highlights and probably, at least if somebody's really not familiar with what design of experiments is all about, it's a good opportunity to go in and kind of get a feel for what it is and what it can do. And then you probably would want to follow that up with getting in his class, which is like a 2-week class at the University of Tennessee. But I think it's good for people who maybe have been through design of experiments just to kind of get a refresher about it, and then others who may not be familiar with it to kind of get a taste of it and see how it might benefit them in their industry.
Well, and also just to give a information about that, it can be done, and some of the thoughts on how to approach the problem, because mills have a lot of variation. How do you account for that, and different ways to try to take into consideration the requirements. You don't want to go in there and make a bunch of rejects. You want to be able to tune it. Plus, also, I know this is not just for wood mills. It's being this type of technology, or his class actually is giving it to a wide array of people. I know, Terry, when you and I were teaching different times, there have been people from a vast majority of industries there. So it doesn't just only cover one, it covers basically any industry you're looking at.
Of course, if you don't want to do either one of those classes on Monday, you can come to the golf outing. It's going to be a great outing. We've got Tony Vucic from Willamette Valley Corporation is organizing that outing, and he's got a lot of experience at that. He's done several for the APA in the past. And it's going to start around 11 o'clock. There's going to be a box lunch, and they have a shotgun start, and then and there's going to be teams and prizes, and it's going to be a fun time too. So if you don't want to go to one of the classes, the golf outing is a good option as well. So I would encourage you to do that if you're interested.
So I'm not calling you guys old, but you guys that have been associated with the conference longer, we've had some discussions on how this conference kind of developed its niche. Talk a little bit about the history of why Dr. Young felt this conference was warranted and where it kind of fit those special needs within the industry.
Well, I think Dr. Young and Dr. Tuncic over in Austria was the one that really kind of got this thing up and going. And, it was just a good opportunity to have, the European as well as the American input in terms of what was going on. Well, that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about the conference was the first time I went was really getting to know some of the European scientists and seeing some of the work that they were doing there was really good as far as what got started. But I don't know if many of you older guys like myself have been around long enough to remember what it used to be the Particle Board Symposium out in Pullman, Washington, many years ago, which then went to Seattle for a while after that. But, Dr. Bob Maloney had started many years ago. That was really a good conference for industry and academics. It was really kind of a good mix. But when they stopped having that conference, it was kind of like there was kind of a missing piece there, you know, in terms of something that was really good for academics and industry. And that's really what kind of got Tim started about this conference, and to kind of find something to kind of fill that niche that particular conference did. So it's kind of in that vein that how this whole thing kind of got started.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again and just briefly let you guys go through the schedule. Monday, like we said, Monday is both the golf tournament and the 2 classes, the design of experiments and intro to wood science. Tuesday kicks off with the first keynote speaker at 8:25 a.m. Terry and Bob, do you want to hit on what some of these concurrent sessions in the afternoon, what those topics will be, or speak to those a little bit? Can everybody see them okay?
Yeah. Well, I kind of hit the first one. I'll let Bob hit the second one since he's kind of in there. But the first one being the wood adhesives, which, you know, there's a couple of really good speakers there. Brian, of course, has a lot of experience in the wood composites industry. They did a lot of good work on the soy substituted PMDI. Joe Marcinko, many of you know him. Joe's been doing wood adhesives a long time. He was with Huntsman many years ago. And he's been doing a lot of work on MDI and other adhesives over the years. He's done a lot of good work, as well as soy-based and canola-based adhesives. And Sudip is one of the R&D managers at Willamette Valley. And they're doing a lot of good research and really grown their research group and efforts over the years. So he brings a lot of knowledge and experience, so he'll give a good talk as well.
How about session 2, Bob?
Okay. In this, a lot of this is basically mathematically based. One of the things Tim is looking at, or this does bring in, is a lot of statistics, looking at different testing methodologies. That's one thing I'm going to be looking at. Basically doing some process modeling, basically a fit statistical distribution model for MOR and MOE for mill properties, bringing in another modeling study for the strength distribution of lumber, trying to bring in methodologies that can be used to try to improve the industry so that we can make better business decisions. I mean, one of the things you always look at is how can you reduce variation? One way to reduce variation is through better testing, and to be able to move away from destructive testing to modeling what you need to have. And the final one is keeping structure on decorative wood panels or products relevant. Basically, how can we compete with some of the processes that are out there, other products that are out there? So trying to bring that in. Terry, do you want to do the third one, or you want me to?
Yeah, I'll handle it.
Okay.
This is really data science and artificial intelligence. It's one of those things that I know a lot of the plants are starting to use, like Bob said, the modeling. But there's a lot more than just modeling that goes with all this. And the data science revolution, Industry 4, and I'll be talking a little bit about EBOP, which is a special type of DOE that really applies well in industry settings. Be talking about that as well. So a lot of just kind of taking the session 2 and kind of taking it more to the applications as well, a little bit broader. So I think it just kind of feeds off the other session that Bob described.
Okay. Session 4. This one you might talk about. This is your Captain Planet counter session. Basically, we all, if you had kids growing up during that time when Captain Planet, here's some of the answers that you can answer people when they ask you about the wood industry. Talk about the mega trends, where the wood industry is going. Talk about carbon fixation. How does that change things? And wood utilization. How does that work in the bioeconomy? And bringing in the focus on data science. Again, going back to that Gen 4 industrial revolution. Like I say, a lot of this is talking about how we can bring the wood industry into that next step, coming in and where we want to be in the future. And so it's I think this is a very interesting session to hit because it gives you a lot of the answers.
The
So-
session, I kind of take sessions 5 and 6 together because
Okay.
they're kind of just, if you look at those sessions, every participant there is from the university academic setting, which is interesting because it takes some of the things they're doing in the academic setting and in the research in some of the universities, and some of the research that really does apply well to industry. We talk about this yield maximization of the organosolid fractionated softwood, it's bio-based, material, and how to optimize yields there. And then talk about wood processing as well as lean manufacturing, which is very commonplace in the industry, as well as some software, looking at the MAT software for efficient specification and safe deployment and environmental protection, which really relates to a lot what's going on in the industry. And then the radio frequency of heating of wood is something that's, radio frequency has been used in different ways in industry, but this is kind of an innovative approach. So it'll be interesting to see what Mark has to say about that. So those two kind of go together.
And then Wednesday morning, one of the things we start off with is some virtual conferences. We're trying to bring in, diversify and bring in from outside, a lot of from Europe. So we're going to have a virtual component. They'll be live. They will be live, but it will be virtual, so we can bring in more people. So talking about things such as the densification of palm lumber. Again, these are going into the industry relevant topics, furniture design, comparison of that. Talking about different catalysts for urea formaldehyde or melamine urea formaldehyde coming from natural products, liquefied wood. So this is these talks have a lot of industrial relevance for the industry people coming to it. And we are still working on trying to get some of the other topics on concurrent 8 and 9 completely done.
Yeah, Bob, why don't you talk a little bit about the conversation and ideas that you had that we made in terms of a round table. There's a couple of different topics that we're talking about doing. You want to speak to those a little bit?
Okay. Well, one of them is we're in an interesting time in the industry right now because there's so much going on with the high-rise buildings. Right now, I think the buildings are able to go up to about 12 stories, and they're looking at raising them even further. I know they have some that are 18 stories, but they have a concrete core in the middle of them. But the interesting question about that is, what are going to be the needs in the codes and the industry and the requirements for the future? So that we're going to be having a roundtable discussion, try to talk about those and see where we think we need to be, basically to try to begin the process of thinking now so that when 2025 gets here and beyond, we'll be ready for it. So that'd be a roundtable discussion where we can talk about that. The other one is looking at the fourth industrial revolution. It's coming. One of the things I'd seen on a TED Talk is all industries right now are tech industries. And you have to understand that. And so with it coming, what's it going to look like? What are going to be our needs, both in equipment and people? And how do we need to start preparing for it? And what's it going to do to the industry? How's it going to change the industry in those years coming? And all of these are basically looking at, it goes back to many of the keynote speakers where they're going to be talking about the future. Where is this industry going in the future? And it'll be a good opportunity for us to get together and hear what all sides think. Industry, academia. One thing for an academic, if you sit there and listen to what the industry talks about they're going to need in 2025, that gives you some research projects for now. So that kind of answers your question, Terry?
Yeah, absolutely.
Terry, the one thing I hear and the one thing we see certainly in the topics is that more so than maybe any other conference FPS is involved with, the focus really here is bringing on industry and academia together and sharing that data back and forth. You had a 30-second elevator speech and you're talking to a colleague and trying to convince them of why this is important for them to attend. What would you tell them?
Well, I think there's two things that are significant here. One is the networking opportunity, as well as learning how to, we're seeing some of the innovations out there, in particular in terms of processing and quality control.
How about you, Bob? And we can wrap with that unless we've got some questions from the audience.
Yeah, I'd love to hear questions from the audience, but to me, it is an opportunity for industry to hear some of what's going on in the academia world that are definitely relevant to our industry, but also, as Terry said, to know that industrial or the statistical side of it and the mathematical side of it that's coming heavily, and hopefully to give academia understanding of what the needs are in our industry so that it's a two-way street.
Well, we'd like to apologize. We're not sure what happened with Dr. Young. He is out of the country and perhaps some technology issues there, internet issues. But I think Terry and Bob have done a great job filling in. Any questions from the audience about the conference, about individual sessions at the conference? The one thing I would also mention is that we are soliciting articles for a special issue of the Forest Products Journal that will be done in conjunction with the conference. There is certainly information on that, and as well as everything with the conference on the FPS website. If you go to forestprod.org and click on the PTF BPI conference, all that information, including registration information, is there. So I'm not seeing any questions in the chat box. Nobody raising their hand. With that, we'll end this one a little bit shorter than we have some of the ones in the past. We would like to thank you for taking time to be with us and hear more about the conference. Look for announcements. Our next scheduled FPI series webinar is scheduled for October 20th, I believe. And we'll look for announcements on that speaker then. And we'd like to thank you for being with us today. And this will conclude the presentation. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
And hope to see y'all in St. Simons.
All right.